I'm Eric, the Untethered Gamer. I've been playing video games since I was 3 or 4 years old. Over that 35 years, I've had a number of different consoles and handhelds, from the NES to the Series X, from the Game Boy to the Switch. Today we're going to talk about the Logitech G Cloud. I've had a lot of accessories over the years with all those consoles and handhelds, and when we look at the Logitech G Cloud, not as a console, but as an accessory, I think this may be the most useful accessory I own. Stick with me and we'll go into the details of why. So how did I get here? I didn't just decide overnight that I was just going to buy the G Cloud. It was a little bit of a journey to get there. So first off, when Xbox Cloud streaming kind of became a thing, right? Had Game Pass, figured I'd give it a shot. The first thing I did was get a clip similar to something like this, right? This is just a stand, but it was one of those ones that would hook onto an Xbox controller. You could then clip your phone onto the top of it, and you could just play your games that way. It was functional, but the problem with it was the latency. Not only are you playing on a server remotely, thousands of miles away probably, came to later find out that that wasn't so much the problem, but more the Bluetooth latency. Xbox uses a proprietary wireless technology when it's connecting to an Xbox, which is super fast. But when you're doing Bluetooth to a phone or a computer, it's not as snappy or responsive, and you could definitely tell when doing it. But I love the idea of cloud gaming, right? You could play anywhere. So I had a friend who got the Razer Kishi, so I ended up getting one on Amazon for a pretty good deal. They had their refurbished or relaunched, whatever Amazon calls it. So I picked up the Razer Kishi. I got the Xbox edition. It's got the Xbox button on it. The ABXY are colored and in the same layout as Xbox. And I love this thing. This thing is absolutely fantastic. Hooked right onto my Pixel 6a, even with a case because I could take the inserts out. But because it was a USB-C connection, there was no distinguishable latency that I could tell. I had this for about 8 months, used it constantly. I played through most of Control in my bed, played through PGA 2K at a water park the second day after me and my wife had already done all the slides and everything, and the kids were still doing it before we came home. So sat there, played that. That was awesome. Even had somebody mistake it for a Steam Deck. On a business trip, I played Stardew Valley on the plane. Worked great. The biggest complaint that I ended up having after a long enough time is I'm getting older. My eyesight isn't as good, even with my contacts in. So while the screen size on my Pixel is 6.1 inches, the aspect ratio is 20:9. When you're playing game streaming, 16:9 is the shape that most screens take. When you do the actual measurement on that, it was actually only a 5-inch screen. So it was much harder to be able to see. So I had my eyes open for something with a bigger screen, another option, and that's when I first heard about the G Cloud. So how did I end up with the G Cloud then? So I first heard about it back in October when it was first announced. Thought it looked really cool. They didn't have any pricing or anything like that yet. But the big thing it answered for me was the complaints that I had about the size of the screen using my phone and the Kishi. 7-inch screen, 1080p, sounded like a dream to me. The other big thing was the 12-hour battery life. Not having to charge it often seemed great. Finally, time comes for it to release. Find out it's $350. That's too much for me to pay. I'm not going to buy that. Even at the launch price where you could save $50, $299 was more than I was willing to spend for this thing. So at that point, I thought a little bit more about, hey, we'll just have to wait it out, see if it comes down in price, because I thought it was overpriced. I figured they would eventually drop the price anyway. Later, around late December, I want to say it was, maybe January, I heard about the Absolute, which was basically the same thing with a smaller battery and a little bit different ergonomics and definitely a worse processor. But I was pretty much locked in that I was going to get that. It was supposed to be launching, rumor was like $250, $290, or $199, somewhere around there. They later confirmed it was going to be $199, so I was really going to get that. But I'm always one to keep an eye out for a deal, right? So I kept looking, kept watching eBay, seeing them pop up, sell. I saw some of them sell for pretty decent prices, keeping an eye on Facebook Marketplace. Eventually, I did find a guy on Facebook Marketplace willing to sell it for $220 with free shipping. I'm not one to say no to a used item. If I can get it for a good deal, and in this case, $80 off the best sale price I'd seen and well within the price range I wanted to spend, I did it. So did that. There are some drawbacks to buying used. If you saw my screen protector video, the screen protector, while you still had the factory screen protector on it, it was very scuffed up and stuff. and it didn't come with the original like power brick. It was a lower wattage brick than what it had come with, but overall it was in really good shape. So that's where I ended up going with it. Hardware wise, this guy has a Snapdragon 720G processor versus the Absolute. It's more powerful, and all the other benefit about buying something 4, 5, 6, 7 months after it's released is there's plenty of reviews already out there. So I won't go too deep into the details of the processor and stuff like that. There's other videos that'll show you that you should definitely check out from ETA Prime and those other guys. Quick rundown: 720G Snapdragon processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes built in. I saw a lot of videos talking about how you could expand it, but no files larger than 4 gigabytes because it's FAT32. I didn't have that problem. I put the memory card in and asked if I wanted to use it in other devices or just store it on this. I said just for this, and now I just have one big cache of storage that I can use. So there was no complaints there. It does have Bluetooth in it. It's got a headphone jack. I've switched to Bluetooth headphones. My phone doesn't have a headphone jack anymore. I like the headphone jack, but I've got some Pixel Buds and I carry them with me all over the place. So it's not a big deal for me anymore. I already talked about the display, 7-inch 1080p display. That's a big one. It's an IPS display, so that's nice. 60 hertz refresh rate. I like faster, but 60 is just fine for me. I get by okay. It's not too heavy, and the ergonomics are great. I can hold it one hand, super easy. Makes it really easy to carry around. Battery capacity is a 6,000 milliamp battery, and I can definitely say that it lasts an incredibly long time. I can play Vampire Survivors on this thing for a full hour and not even lose 10% of the battery, and that's using the built-in processor on it. Streaming, I think, uses even a little bit less. So my experience has been great from a hardware standpoint. So let's talk about how this thing feels, the ergonomics of it, right? Again, other videos have touched on this. I'm just going to reiterate a lot of what they say, so I'm not going to go too deep, just give my own spin on it. Feels great to hold. The handholds, the way they kind of jet out here are great. Get my fingers around it. I don't have huge hands, so these are a good fit for me. Overall, really comfortable hold. I said I play Vampire Survivors when I take it to the gym. I will use this thing for an hour on the bike. It's nice that that game really only needs one stick, but if I need to, take my hand off it for a second, wipe my face off because it's sweaty or something, it's no problem to hold that and just keep pedaling, keep biking. Switch it up back and forth, pause it real easy. Works really great to hold. I like how thin it is, but the size feels right. I really like it. Really good. The thumbsticks, I think, have a nice fit. They're kind of concave here, so they fit the pad of my thumb really well. They're not too hard to move. They're not too loose. They're just right. They are the Goldilocks of thumbsticks. They click. They feel good. No complaints there. Only complaints I do have about the actual functioning is if you're trying to play like a finer game, right, with some finer motor controls. I've had a little bit of issue with dead zone on it. If I'm playing something like PGA 2K, not a big deal because I'm using full motion with that. Vampire Survivors full motion. Tried playing Call of Duty and I was able to play, but Warzone on this, that when you're zoomed in and you're doing like little touch adjustments to your aim, didn't feel good. That said, it felt better. The last time I did that was before the last update. They pushed out an update, which I think shrunk the dead zone a little bit, but your mileage may vary. Just something to be aware of. And then lastly, all the buttons themselves. I've heard people complain about the placement of the start and back button. I mean, how often do you hit the back button when you're actually playing a game? I don't really care if my thumbstick hits it or if I hit the thumbstick a little bit during that. Anyway, the D-pad works fine. I'm not much for fighting games, so some people complain about the diagonals in that. It's worked fine for me. I generally use the sticks anyway, so I translate the D-pad over to the thumbstick when I'm playing an emulator game or anything like that. Most of the 3D games I play are going to be on thumbsticks anyway. That's going to vary, again, depending on the person. Overall, it's got a really good feel. Power button doesn't bother me. Again, the slider, some people didn't like it. I do. Doesn't bother me. Home button's fine. The Logitech G Play button, push it, it acts like an Xbox button when I'm playing Steam or anything else, so it's good. No complaints. Triggers feel like triggers. Shoulder buttons feel like shoulder buttons. The triggers, they don't scrape like the Kishi did which is nice. I know none of these aren't Hall effect, but I can't tell the difference. So all in all, the look, the feel, the ergonomics of it, real good. So let's talk about the software on the G Cloud. Runs out of the box at the time of filming this, Android 11 stock. It's an OS that's pretty mature at this point. The gesture navigation, all that stuff I've grown quite used to. I'm used to it on my phone, using it on a tablet, no big deal as well. It does have a custom Logitech launcher that comes pre-installed. It does give you the option if you want to use that or just tablet mode. Let's talk about that one first. It runs very smooth and it's got a lot of kind of cool features that I do like. When you go to start another program up, it asks if you want to shut down the previous one. I do kind of wish that there was an option to just automatically do that, because if I'm switching to something else, I do want to shut down the other programs, but that's fine. It's got thumbstick adjustment built in. They did add, as other videos have said, the button mapping, screen mapping, so you can play games like Genshin Impact, other things like that as you want to do it. I like it. It's good. I kind of go back and forth on whether I want to use that or stock Android. Stock Android does give you more control. The back button did work after the last update in the custom launcher, in the Logitech launcher. That was a complaint early on that didn't work. So it seems to work fine now. The stock Android launcher does give you more control when you're doing, especially for me, screen recording. There's a bug that screen recording in the Logitech launcher won't record the game audio, but it gives you the option of recording your mic, where if you do the screen recording through just the stock Android launcher, it gives you the option of doing whatever you want. So that's cool. On the stock launcher though, there was a couple different nights where I put the thing down, I didn't turn it off, and I don't know if it was Steam Link running in the back end or what, but it did chew through my battery life overnight. I lost like 40% battery overnight, which isn't normal for this thing. Normally, if it's in standby, it'll be in standby for days. So kind of weird there. But that again comes back to programs running in the background. I know it doesn't leave every program running forever, but it does leave a fair amount of them in memory and keep them there. Through one of the other videos, I want to say maybe it was Retro Gamer Dad or Retro Game Corp. So one of those, they did show, I believe it's called DaijiShow, which is an emulator front end. This I do really like. It does a great job of cataloging your games as far as all the different emulators that you may have on it, as well as you can set widgets for different games that you play frequently, be them emulator games, built-in Android games, or just programs. And there's the standard just scroll through your app drawer and see what apps are there. And it keeps all those other built-in stock Android things the same, like the back swipe, swipe up to see your multiple apps, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I've kind of switched to at this point, is just using DaijiShow all the time. I know there are some other ones out there. I just haven't been a big fan. But overall, it is an Android tablet. I've been an Android guy since Android came out, so very, very familiar to me. If you're here, that means the real question that you want answered is, how does this thing perform? Does it do what it says it's going to do? Knowing how it feels, knowing the software, all great things. But if it's not going to do the purpose, which is gaming, why even bother? So let's talk about that. First and foremost, this is marketed as a streaming device, using it for Steam Link, using it for Xbox, PlayStation. Well, PlayStation they didn't market it as, but we'll get there. But how does it do in streaming? Well, let's hit them one at a time. Steam Link is the one I use the biggest. I have by far a much larger Steam library than I do my Xbox or PlayStation libraries. This has done great. At this point, Steam has updated their big picture mode, also being their remote in mode, to look like the Steam Deck. I really like the interface. It's fast, it's snappy, it's easy to use. It works really, really well. I've also played around a little bit with Moonlight on this. I know Nvidia stopped doing their game streaming. There's something else called Sunshine that I set up. Also works really good, good high quality. Both have been doing fantastic. I have pretty much switched to Steam Link though, because I can get it to work away from home. So when I was at the water park playing PGA 2K, I was playing my home computer, which was really cool to play a golf game with such little latency was fantastic. So that's cool. Xbox, I've been playing it locally. My Game Pass subscription lapsed. I haven't renewed it. There's just been so many other games that I've been catching up on. I have to say that it's great at Xbox local play. I was playing Tony Hawk and landing combos and everything like that on this. No problem. I have fiber internet. I can only imagine that if I was playing at the cloud, some data center, that it would be just as good, if not better, because I was doing this again away from home. So if my home does it with my home Xbox, the cloud service is going to be great. And lastly, I have tried a little bit of PlayStation Remote Play. I don't have a PS5. I've got a PS4 Pro. Through some of the research I did after I first got it, there's a couple apps out there. They're paid. They're like $7 a piece. Was able to get, it was PS Play, and I got the Xbox version as well, XBX Play. Both of those will set up to work away from home as well. And that's one of the big things that I want to do with this, right? When I travel occasionally for work, I want to be able to connect into my home devices and play them without having to just be stuck to the Android games that I've got on here. Tried them both, works great. The input lag is very minimal. I ran a couple test videos just using my phone at the maximum slow-mo it would do, which is 240 FPS. And I counted about 24 frames per second from the time that the computer screen started changing to the time that the G Cloud screen started changing. So that adds up to be 1/10 of a second. My reaction time is not that fast anyway. I don't notice 1/10 of a second. It's probably 1/10 of a second going to the device as well. So if you figure, 2/10 of a second to send your input and get the video back, worked great. That's on my home network that I tested that. I haven't tested that away. I don't have 2 high-speed cameras, but working very well. Beyond streaming though, this is a very capable Android emulation device. I did try a couple different front ends. Like I said, I landed on Daijisho. Works really well. I've had to teach myself how to use RetroArch, but now that I've got that going, I've been able to emulate all the way up to PlayStation 2 successfully. The 720G in here handles PlayStation 2 games. I was playing God of War. First time I've ever played God of War. It was great. I was enjoying it. Really no slowdown at all. So it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve, RetroArch specifically. Once you kind of get it, and I'll probably make a video on how to do the basics with it. I'm no expert by any means, but it's nice having all those different emulators in one shop and having one front end that will launch them all. I have had to load a couple other launchers in as well, but all of it's been working just great. And then lastly, beyond that, just how does it play Android games? I'm not a big mobile gamer, but the games that I want to play on mobile are the games that I've found through like Game Pass or other things. So Vampire Survivors has been my really big one lately. I had not played it before this, and from everything I can tell, playing it on this is exactly the same as if I was playing it on Steam Deck. I'm just playing the Android version. It goes in landscape, has full gamepad support already, so it's just like I'm playing on a PC if I was doing that. Dead Cells is another one of my favorites, but again, it doesn't need a lot of power to run Dead Cells. Pixel game also runs great. And then Stardew Valley is another one. All 3 of those are going to kind of be my go-tos on business trips when I have to fly out. Those will be my games that I play through, and they'll definitely keep me busy. But performance overall on this, I've been incredibly happy with it. At the $200 price point, $220 price point I got it for, this is my favorite accessory. It's a way for me to access all my other devices, as well as do some cool things with emulation on the side. We've covered a lot of different things. Let's hit on the wrap up, right? What are my final thoughts on this? Price-wise, if you can get this used between $200 and I would even say after owning it, $250, it's probably well worth it. I have used this constantly. Like I said, it's my favorite accessory at this point. Maybe that'll change. Maybe I've just got those rose-colored glasses because it's my new toy, but I got a little case with it. I take it everywhere. I've used it at the gym. I've used it in the break room at work. I plan on using it on a plane. I've definitely played it in bed when I don't want to go play on a PC. And really, I have started playing this more than I've played my other consoles through this more than I've played at my other consoles. So my computer, I've played more computer games on the G Cloud from my computer than at my computer. Xbox, same thing. PlayStation, I don't play nearly as much. The kids play more of that, but it is fantastic. So what are my favorite things about it? The screen is fantastic. I wanted a big screen that had good color and good brightness. This checks all those marks. Other people have complained that the screen brightness doesn't go quite as low as they'd like in low light. It's been fine for me. Battery life's been fantastic as long as programs don't get left open. That's something that I do have to consciously think about when I'm playing different games. Super comfortable to hold. The ergonomics of it are fantastic. That's another big pro for me. And the other big pro is it seems to get fairly consistent updates as well. I think it's had 3 updates since it was released 6 months ago. So an update every 2 months is pretty good when they're only updating one device. It's not like it's Samsung updating a whole fleet of devices or Google updating a whole fleet of Pixels. It's Logitech updating one Android tablet, which is pretty cool. What are my middlings, right? The things that are good, bad, but not deal breakers. Out of the box, 40-ish usable gigabytes. If you're going to use this thing for emulation, you're probably going to want more. You can pick up a 128 gig memory card for 10, 12 bucks. And when you put it in and use it to expand the storage, I haven't noticed any issues with it. It seems to be working fine. The dead zones on the sticks could maybe be an issue too for somebody who does a lot of shooters. Your mileage may vary. And again, the software update may have fixed that. I'm not 100% sure. There are some bugs with it though. The screen recording is one that shouldn't have happened, right? If I'm going to do screen recording, I want to record the game audio as well. I don't see the reason why you would just want to record mic audio when the actual OS will record the game audio. So that's another one. Those are my meh things. The cons, I'm going to double use this as an Android tablet as well. So great as a media device, right? Watch YouTube, Amazon Prime, whatever video service is your flavor of the month. But I do read books on this as well. And I had to manually go in there and tell it I wanted portrait mode. I can't even if I tell it to auto rotate, I don't know if the gyro in here, I don't even know if there is a gyro, honestly. But it definitely doesn't do anything. So I had to manually tell it portrait mode for books. I'm going to have trouble with that, I think. No auto rotate and so forth is going to give me some issues. And it's the other big con is it's too expensive if you're buying it new. It is not worth $350. I don't even think it's at $299. It's still too expensive. It needs to be less than that. But those are really the only 2 gripes I have. I've been extremely happy otherwise. So closing out, 2 weeks in, this is my most used gaming device right now. My most used gaming accessory. Very happy with it. Doing what I want it to do. It fills the reason why I have this in the first place. And I'm excited about it. Excited about having another device that fills what I want it to fill. I love good graphics. Streaming from my computer, if I can do it with low latency to where it feels like I'm playing on the device, which is what it feels like I'm playing on the device, then it's worth it. So this is checking all the boxes for me. I'll probably continue to make some videos on how to do different things on it in addition to the other reviews and opinions, things like that I do. So stick around. If you like this, hit subscribe. I'm a new channel, so I'd love to have people coming back and interacting with what kind of content you want to see. But if you don't, then hopefully you end up back here another time. Either way, peace.